Global health catalyzing health through the International Phytomedicine Institute of Global Oncology University welcomes you to the final lecture of the first series From Farm to Bedside. Today, the focus will be on citizen science. What is citizen science? Stay with us to learn more. As Prof. Will Ngwa is going to introduce who is a visionary on the field of oncology. Sorry about that, the call was coming. As the director of, just give me a minute. I just want to switch off my phone. People are calling me, so it's Global Health catalyzing health through the International Phytomedicine Institute of Global Oncology University welcomes you to the final lecture of the first series From Farm to Bedside. Today, our focus will be on citizen science. What is citizen science? To know more about it, we have 3 speakers scheduled for this session. I'll start with Prof. Will Ngwa. He's the Director of Global Health Catalyst and Professor at Harvard Medical School. Professor Ngwa has dedicated his career to bridging the gap in cancer care and medical innovation between high-income and low and middle-income countries. His pioneering work in leveraging technology, artificial intelligence, and international collaboration has set a new standard for global health initiatives. Today, Professor Ngwa is here to speak on a topic very close to our hearts, citizen science. He will introduce us to how we as global community can all become active participants in the scientific discovery, particularly in the vital area of phytomedicine. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Professor Will Ngwa. Prof, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Billy. Very grateful and excited to be here today, this morning or afternoon or evening for you guys, wherever you are. Yeah, so today I will talk about citizen science, which is very interesting. You may be hearing the word for the first time, or you've heard about it and you're not so sure what that really means. So through this lecture, I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how we can apply that to phytomedicine, democratizing access to phytomedicine, and actually using a really an example of my own experience around this that has led to new discoveries to be able to communicate and illustrate how we can apply this. So if my objective, I'm successful today, I would like that by the time you walk away, you understand what citizen science means, and at least the definition. So I want to start with this first introduction slide on citizen science. So by definition, citizen science is the practice of everyday people, and I like everyday people collaborating in scientific research and data collection. So I like the word collaborating there a lot because obviously that is connected to the work of the Global Health Catalyst, really catalyzing collaborations. And since, global health is really cross-disciplinary. And since we started the Global Health Catalyst at Harvard 2015, people have always said, Professor Ngwa, I really want to do global health. I want to participate, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professor. I'm not a, scientist. I don't know what to do. Actually, the great thing about global health is that everybody can participate. Even much better is that in citizen science, everyday people can participate. It doesn't matter what your background is. I give you an example. If you're walking, if you live where you're walking on the beach, you like going to the beach every day or every weekend, like this weekend, and you just say, okay, when you're walking on the beach, take pictures with your phone. Um, and suddenly, anytime you see a plastic bottle lying on the beach, just take a picture. Um, and we just give you have an app on your phone. Once you take the picture, it uploads that into the cloud. Um, then suddenly what's going to happen is that you can map where all the plastics are located in the beaches in the US, for example, if you're looking at the beach here in the US. Um, and so you can really collect data while people are just having fun, doing their everyday activity. They don't have to go out of their way to do anything. When you're on the beach, you're relaxing, you can take a picture, right? So um, anyway, so that's the definition of citizen science. It's everyday people who are collaborating or contributing to scientific research and data collection. So let's kind of illustrate that with a couple of things before I kind of show you my own personal example where this has really led to a discovery. Um, and this is really something where I would like everybody to kind of engage. So I'll be curious to see what you think here. My brother Chris actually really likes these bird watching, and one of the things that um, this example kind of reminded me of him. And one of the things that you know you can see if this is really a citizen science project. So tracking bird migrations or biodiversity. So for example, you're asked to record anytime you see a bird, this particular bird here, that you take a picture of it and upload it somewhere. Every time you see this particular bird, you that's in a yellow bird, you can be a yellow bird, right? With this description, you upload that to the cloud. And then what happens is that, some scientists or other people who are monitoring this can actually know where these birds are at any time of the year and when they migrate. Um, and so through such research, one thing you can do is you can be able to track their movement. You can be able to see if there's an impact from climate change or anything. And so the question to you is, do you think this would qualify, according to the definition of citizen science, would this qualify as a citizen science project? I want to see if you just say yes, it qualifies. If you are in the chat, if you think it's not, say no. I would like to see what people think. Okay, wonderful. At least the people who have responded so far say yes. That's great. Fantastic. I'm going to give you another example. Let's see what you think. So this one I made up, but it's kind of connected to some of the work that I will tell you about my own work and where we are going. Dr. Billy mentioned about the International Phytomedicine Institute. So in this example, citizens can upload plant photos. Um, AI then identifies the species and links that to some medicinal knowledge database. Uh, Communities can contribute, provide more information. For example, you are in your backyard and you're going to the farm and you see the plant that you normally use for um, treating your malaria, for example. You take a picture of that and you upload it into the cloud. And you can even say, in the I use this for malaria. This is a malaria drug, a plant. Uh, then suddenly, if you do that from South Africa, another person does that in Colombia, another person does that in Bangladesh, because the AI can identify this plant, then suddenly, that goes up the priority list as there must be something medicinal about this particular plant for that particular indication, say malaria, right? Or it could be HIV/AIDS, or it could be cancer. People use that for cancer, or what other applications that you're using. But if you think about this, would you qualify that as a citizen science project? I would like to see what you guys think here. Would that qualify as a citizen science? Just say yes or no. It's interesting. Dr. Gates says he's been participating in annual bud count. Pretty cool. Yes, 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 yes. You guys agree. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what this Wakanda phytomedicine thing means, right? So this is really engaging the public to identify medicinal plants and share their traditional knowledge. And I'll kind of illustrate this with an example from my own work. But before I do that, I think there is a really good question you may be asking. Why do you even care about phytomedicine citizen science? Why would you want to do citizen science for medicinal plants? Why? Um, Most of you know the answer, but just for the record, putting that to say, yes, millions of people rely on medicinal plants for their primary health care. We know when we did the Lancet Oncology study for Sub-Saharan Africa, that is a healthcare system, medicinal plants and traditional medicine, that is dependent upon by over 80% of the population. Um, and so you cannot ignore that. Like it's a huge, even as you think about modern medicine, that's a huge, um, you know, um, healthcare system that needs to be engaged with. I remember the lecture that Dr. Arthur will be speaking afterwards. I mean, there's a webinar series, that conference that he organized where we talked about this phytomedicine in Kenya. It's a good example where you could really see a strong engagement and interest in that area. But one thing that has really supercharged this area, I would say, is the availability now today of artificial intelligence, right? So you can really see how you could then, and smartphones, right? We didn't have smartphones some time ago. But now with this kind of knowledge, these technologies, enabling technologies, we can gather knowledge from around the world. People can really participate in citizen science. And I think we can take things to the next level. So this is really a great way to preserve and validate knowledge for global health. So that's why we are talking about this today. Okay, I'm going to switch, just kind of mention that, for me, I've generally generated phytomedicine, a lot of interest in this. Obviously, there are scientific journals on this. So, I got really motivated because I started realizing that one, there's a lot of people using phytomedicine, but two, we actually know that most of the pharmaceutical foundations, around 40% of pharmaceutical products today are derived from natural sources, according to the WHO. And then we also know that, like I mentioned from our study from the Lancet, 80% of the population actually engages in some form of phytomedicine, traditional medicine and phytomedicine. And plant medicine has really persisted over time, but I think that one way that this can really help us is also that through this kind of citizen science, you can actually determine, like I mentioned, if people are using some particular plant, more and more, everybody's using that particular plant. A lot of people are using it. It must mean that it has some medicinal value. There must be something to it, right? It must be helping somebody. But then what science can do is take that plant and then do some more science on it, to establish maybe the efficacy and the toxicity, and then can use that to help everybody, and it will benefit the world, not just that community. So, in my own work, I really remember, really motivated, call this Wakanda Forever plant, the blood plant, because if you've watched the Marvel movie series, Wakanda, the Black Panther, you actually see that the Black Panther gets his superpowers from before you are made king, in that city somewhere in Africa, according to the movie. You actually get this herbal plant. It's shaped like the heart, like a heart, right here in the center here. And so that's actually mixed up, and that's part of the process for actually making the Black Panther get his supernatural abilities by drinking that. And so it kind of really is interesting because um, the blood plant is also part of research that I did. Um, And this was from a plant discovered in Africa. So in 2019, we actually presented this at Discover Brigham at Harvard Medical School. This discovery where we discovered this species of a plant. This really emerged out of, I would say, citizen science, because people, indigenous knowledge. So people, it's not a modern medicine, but people are just using that plant, in their communities. And so this work was actually then, because of that, used this to publish papers on this through a collaboration between my team at Harvard and the Smithsonian Institute and researchers in Cameroon, where this plant was discovered. What we found out was that obviously this plant, through the work of the Smithsonian Institute, comes from the family and genus Justicia, but the species had not been identified. And so right now, this picture kind of illustrates the fact that, the species is not known. So now we're just giving it a name temporarily as sanguinis. So Justicia for the genus and sanguinis for the species, until we can establish what the species will be. Maybe we'll have to get a chance to contribute to the name of this. But here's what happens. So I'm visiting Cameroon and I see someone drinking blood red tea made from a green plant. And then I asked, why are you drinking that? And then everybody in that community, the citizens, right? Everyday people, they are like, what? You don't know this? This is what we used as a remedy for anemia, right? And then, actually I felt embarrassed and I was like, okay, if everybody's using this for anemia, there must be something in it, right? If every citizen says they're using this for anemia, then there must be something for it. So I take it to my lab at Harvard, and I still remember when I sent my postdoc to go to analyze this. When she was taking this to the lab, the people in the lab, the core facility, was like, we don't do research on blood. And she had to say, no, this is not blood. This is from a plant. But this is really fascinating because of the community, that population research. It inspired now the additional research that was then done, in the scientific lab. And so some of the things that we then did was we then went back to that community, to that population, and we said, okay, we're going to survey people in that community, all the citizens, and say, okay, since that time, now we have AI and the app where people could probably do things like that. But, you actually run a survey, interview people in this community, and you say, yes, have you seen this plant before? What do you use it for? And then we saw that out of that survey, in the population uses that, over 70% of the population uses that for anemia treatment. So that tells you there must be something there, right? So some of this work was already published, and then they give other uses for it that people use it for, but by far and wide, the most common use was anemia. And then when we started looking into this in more detail, we see that it does have a higher concentration of hemoglobin, and this really interesting, we started looking and saw that, yeah, why would plants have hemoglobin? As you know, hemoglobin is the red blood pigment in your blood that carries oxygen from your lungs and carbon dioxide, when you breathe in and out. So why do plants need that? Right? When we started looking at that, we saw that they actually discovered that plants have hemoglobin back in 1938. Over the years, they discovered that plants do have genes for hemoglobin, and they don't usually produce it because they don't need it. And it turns out that, and that's the additional science we've done, that this particular plant, given the environment where it grows, in the seasons where it grows, it needs this hemoglobin to survive. And so it decided to turn its gene on to produce this. And we've gotten actually permission from the United States Department of Agriculture to import this to the US. And then growing it in Florida, which is probably the best climate, we see that over time, this plant doesn't need that hemoglobin and it loses it. It doesn't produce it anymore because the weather doesn't demand it to do that. So it turns off the gene. And so this I digress here. The key point here is that through population and citizen science, that's what I will call this, we've been able to make a discovery which is has potential applications, right? We even saw that through this. It's not just the hemoglobin, but if you analyze that, you see a lot of the analytes in this are really what you have in blood plasma. Really fascinating. And so you can think about potential applications for this. Um, we actually know that more than 2 billion people, including 42% of pregnant women, 47% of children younger than 5 years, suffer from anemia. For me, even working in the cancer field, I see, like it's a really big problem. 80% of cancer patients have to deal with anemia at some point. So this is a really important, discovery to say that could have an impact here. And we know that the current interventions are not sufficient. And so, you could think about, so we've actually done prepared powdered, like last lecture, last week we talked about nutraceuticals. One very easy one to do is basically create these nutraceuticals, like create tablets, supplements, with this. And the question is, can they actually replace, in the communities where these are discovered, where people may not be able to afford iron supplements, which are actually have their own disadvantages, this could be something that people could just use. The women, the kids that we just talked about, and actually can fortify food. Even for people who cannot afford meat, this could be a way to really supply iron, and really address anemia situations. I started looking at this. One very interesting thing that came out, I really like is long live the cows, right? So remember that when we actually eat a lot of the burgers that we eat in the United States and other countries that eat burgers, what really makes them tasty is actually the blood, the hemoglobin in the burgers. And so, some years ago, Bill Gates invested, I think, 100 or 200 million in a company in California that had found a way, to extract hemoglobin from the roots of soybean or other plants and convert that. And therefore, they could use that to make burgers or meats that would taste the same thing like cow meat without so you don't need a cow to make the burger, you just need a plant, so that plant-based burgers, and they're very common now in the United States, right? But if you do that, then what happens is that you don't have to cultivate, animals or cows, and that will save the cows. So long live the cows. There's also a very good big environmental advantage there for those who like to save the planet. 15 to 51% of the global greenhouse gas emissions actually come from animal agriculture. So if you were to do this, you're going to save a lot of, if you save the cows, and don't cultivate them, you can help save the planet. Some people really find this as their own motivation why they should have plant-based meats or burgers. So, and if you're religious, if you're from India, for example, I learned that, they actually in the culture, recognize cows as sacred, right? So you see a cow crossing the street and you would curtsy to recognize that this is actually a special animal. And so they don't want to kill cows. Just saying, this could be the kind of discoveries that could have impact even in more ways than we could imagine. But by far, obviously, what you may be thinking, the biggest application here would be to think about developing a safe universal blood substitute, which has been a big challenge. Some work has been done in South Africa, in the US, and they've always had problems with this. More recently, the US government is funding something to the Department of Defense that it's like a blood substitute. So you can use that, for wounded soldiers. If you go to space, maybe you can convert that into a powder and just combine it with water and can administer it. But really cool because it can be a universal blood substitute. So you don't need to think about the blood group A, O, B, you don't have to worry about that. You can just inject that. And that will really have a potentially huge impact. But because of the previous experiences, this has to go through, unlike supplements or nutraceuticals, this will have to go through animal studies and and then human studies and all of that. We've actually, in this paper that we published, shown that this is really, already showing results in animals, in mice who had anemia. You could just convert the powder into water, administer that, and they will recover much faster than the ones that just had a placebo. So this is something that is exciting, but it will take time to develop as well. Okay, so I just want to transition now back to citizen science and mention that one key thing is one of the reasons why we kind of started the International Phytomedicine Institute at Harvard Global in 2019 was really to look at this was one of the motivations, but we also had some other really good collaborators at the time. Last week we talked about Professor Lowe, who you see in this picture, was there as well, and the company Flavocure with Dr. Ngay and other people. And so the idea of collaborating to really move the needle forward. We also have Calvin Johnson, some NFL players who are really interested in this, and groups from other countries and some ambassadors. We have this is the ambassador of Mozambique and the minister of agriculture from Jamaica. Really, that shows the enthusiasm around the area of phytomedicine. And if we can make some innovation and collaborate around this can really have an impact. All right, so I'm going to go back quickly, and I know my time, I need to hand over soon, but I just want to talk a little bit about how, yes, you can go to indigenous knowledge. The population can help contribute to knowledge that can then drive science. You don't have to have a PhD or an MD degree, or you don't have to be, you don't have to have do research in any way. You just have to be an everyday citizen, right? You can contribute to knowledge. That is what citizen science is. And so how can we really do this? For the International Phytomedicine Institute, the idea of a Wakanda citizen science project or initiative, it really becomes even more powerful because and plausible because of the the advent of AI, right? So now you can use AI to identify the plants. So I just want you to think about how that could work, right? You can collect plant images and organize them by species. You can then use AI like deep learning with convolutional networks, neural networks, and you can identify these images. You can train the AI to recognize these images, and then you can deploy that on a mobile app, so on your phone, and there are a lot of tools that you can use to do that today. And then when someone uploads a picture from anywhere in the world, they can either identify it as the species immediately because they know it, or they can predict it. Or in the case of Justicia, that particular species, I will tell you, Justicia has about 620 known species or more. And so this is just one that they realized this one lives in that particular community that had never really been classified. So you could then also detect which are some plants that may be in that genus but they don't have a species yet. But then it allows you to do some more science around it, right? So it can really make this a seamless process for us, with the advent of AI right now. But how would you build this medicinal plant knowledge base? You first have to really do that, and then you can use the AI to train that, right? I'm sure that all of you have answers, but obviously the answer is a citizen science, right? You can also go the way where you can look at databases. The WHO has databases, the Kew Gardens. You can go back. The National Institute for Complementary Medicine in the US. They have plants. They have databases that you can use to train your AI. But I think even more powerful to get more data, you really have to engage citizen science here. Just get an app. People can have that on their phones, and wherever they're doing, when they're going to their farm or walking in their garden, they see something curious, they can take a picture of that. They can either say, oh, I use this for this, or they can just take a picture of it. Maybe it's a beautiful flower you've never seen before, that kind of thing. But you can really contribute to knowledge. And I'll tell you why this becomes really important given the light of the lectures we've had, medical cannabis and other things. You've seen in the lectures, Professor Keterere and other people, I've given lectures basically talking about how, the plant, the types of medical cannabis, they're different, right? So if you are in Boston, you're in South Africa, you're in Colombia, you are in California, you may be taking we may be taking something that is different from each location. Even though we call it CBD, the concentrations may be different depending which plants that you're using. We even heard last week that even the seasons, but Dr. Lowe, even the seasons, whether you're getting a plant in April versus in December, it may be different, right? So what that really means is that, having a way to be able to have people across the world contribute some knowledge, work together on this citizen science. This could really democratize a lot of knowledge across locations. So if I take a picture of a particular type of plant that I've grown in California, you can really look at that and see, is that the same picture that I'm talking about? Say Justicia is the one that I'm seeing in Puerto Rico. Is that the same thing that you see in Cameroon, or it's the same thing you see somewhere else? That is at least at a very broad level. But then you start thinking about how people can contribute. If you're taking your medicinal plant, you can give more information. Other people can see that and they can compare. So this really opens up a great opportunity for democratizing access. And so, we really now need to engage, in that case, global citizens as well. And again, I mentioned that citizen science is really good because everybody can contribute. As a user, you can upload your plant photos with the option to say what it's being used for. The AI can suggest what the species is for, or they can give you more information. It can tell you what the people use it for and what are the side effects, and you can contribute to the local knowledge. Um, so, if I'm gonna end by a few questions, which I'm just gonna stimulate and then invite you to how we can probably work together to move this forward. So, here's the question: how can citizens contribute to the work under phytomedicine? So, if let's say we have a platform where people can contribute to what we just talked about in terms of citizen science, what will be the best way that citizens can contribute to this? Is it A, by just uploading their pictures of the plants? B, sharing the knowledge of the plants that they upload pictures for? C, validating information. Maybe if you see the plant that somebody has put up and say, I use this for anemia, you can say, yes, I use this for anemia to help me. Or D, all of the above. What do you think would be potential correct answer for this? All right, I already see Emad, Collins, Kaliwa, a lot of you are saying D. Correct. Excellent. Thank you. So that is D. D, all of the above is the best answer there. All right. But before I end, I want to talk about the ethics, because this is the question that I get all the time. When I give a talk, sometimes people are like, well, yes, now that plant that you discovered, if you discover such a plant, then who owns the intellectual property, right? So there's some ethics around that. And then we have to be very careful that, we don't give such a talk and then people say, okay, this is what gonna cure my disease. And if you take a lot of it and things go wrong, then you say, oh, I'm gonna sue you. You told me that, I should take this plant, it's gonna help me. Um, so there are a number of ethics and challenges, and I think we need to really think about what those ethics are. So one, fair benefit sharing for communities. If you do citizen science, and let's say you just discovered a cure for cancer, who is gonna get that benefit? How do you share that benefit? It's a question that needs to be considered. Somebody indigenous knowledge, somebody, most African countries or Southeast Asia, the traditional medicine people actually use this that's how they get their income, right? It's the indigenous knowledge for the people and for them and for the people. And so if you start doing this, would you be protecting that? Would you make people lose their source of income? And maybe indigenous knowledge. And then avoiding unsafe self-medication. We talked about that, people don't just want to hear that, okay, yes, on this app that I just did, people say they use this for doing HIV AIDS, and then they start taking that to some dose that they don't really know, maybe it becomes unsafe. And then obviously we talked about AI. One of the beauties about citizen science, obviously, is that you can get a lot of data, but there are going to be lookalike plants. You can misidentify it, and there's some risk there, right? And then finally, because yes, we know that say in most low and middle income countries, people have smartphones, but there's so many places where people don't have smartphones and they just have mobile phones and they don't have those apps, because they don't have access to technology equally, would they be biased in some things? Those are things that people need to consider. Um, so, uh, yeah, this is actually a question I was hoping to tell you. So what is the most important ethical principle for when you think about developing such a platform? You really want to make sure that there's fair benefit sharing and that you protect the community's knowledge. I think that that's a really important consideration for us to make if you're going to be doing this kind of thing. And even though we're talking about this as a citizen science project for global health, these things are already happening, right? They're already happening. I just give the example from the Harvard study, but prior to that, we were not really thinking about citizen science. So those things are already happening. All right, so I want to end by saying, one of the things we really want to, um, move forward, like the vision for a Wakanda Global Health Citizen Science Project is really a way to, and for the Global Health Catalyst, we really think this is a way where you can provide a platform for everybody to participate, right? Communities around the globe and scientists can collaborate around a project. And it really provides an opportunity where you could leverage AI as a technology platform to, one, empower communities with knowledge, two, make new discoveries, and then three, you want to make sure that you continue to democratize access to that knowledge. So, for example, now with the paper that we published from Cameroon, I can take that work back to the community and say, now I know why this was helping you for anemia. And by the way, don't take so much. You can only take this amount of, you empower them with that knowledge. The community knows now what's the right dose. They may actually be able to get an optimal dose than what they've been getting. Number two, you can tell them about what the potential side effects they should take into account. Even more now, if you really develop a blood substitute with this, it will help not just that community, it's going to help the whole world. So there is a really tremendous opportunity for us, especially because of the fact that most people use phytomedicine to really move this forward. So I want to end by really inviting you. We actually are going to have the Global Health Catalyst Summit coming up at Harvard in September. And this is going to be available online. So we're going to share the link for everybody who's participating in this course to be able to join if they can. There's going to be a session which I call Wakanda session. It's a really international phytomedicine institute session where we will get some of the people who were back there in 2019 prior to COVID when we launched the International Phytomedicine Institute to participate in that session. Dr. Sandra will be there, Dr. Billy, all of the wonderful people that have been managing this course are going to be there. And you can join us even remotely, in person if you can. But this is one of the things that we really think we're going to launch online comprehensive cancer center in the cloud. This will be one of the initiatives where everybody can actually contribute. You don't have to be an MD, a PhD, a researcher, or going to school. You can be anybody in the street who is just walking or in the farm, to be able to contribute. So that's where I'll end. I don't know if there are going to be some questions, Dr. Billy.
The questions will be attended to at the end
Okay.
of the lecture.
Okay.
Let me give a chance to the person who's coming next after you. Thank you so much, Prof. Will. That was very, very educative, making knowledge available for all through Wakanda. Would like all of you to participate. Let me introduce the next speaker. As I introduce you, Dr. Arthur, would you please put up the slides? Our next speaker is Dr. Arthur Ajuang, who is a medical doctor and a researcher from Uzima University and a leading voice for the Global Health Catalyst in Kenya. He is a rising catalyst in phytomedicine research, specifically in relation to oncology. Dr. Ajuang will be speaking today on the pioneering citizen science aspect of phytomedicine survey he led at Uzima University, highlighting how community-driven data can revolutionize research. Dr. Ajuang, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sento, for that introduction. Earlier this year, we had an international cancer awareness conference at the Uzima University, where we had students from different campus colleges, and we had medical students, nursing students, clinical medicine students, microbiology students, of course, also health record students. So after the conference, we did a survey on the knowledge usage, and of course, the survey was about cancer awareness, um, health insurance usage, of course, on phytomedicine, and also on artificial intelligence in medicine. So for this particular presentation, I only picked what we did on phytomedicine. So we were looking at the knowledge of phytomedicine, the usage among the population of the respondents we were having, because we also had medical doctors, professors, nurses who are qualified medical laboratory people coming to the conference. So we had also them responding to the survey. So we are looking at supports for future research and incorporation into clinical practice in Kenya. So as I had said, it followed the cancer awareness campaign conference at the university. So we had a total of 523 respondents total. The age groups of the respondents, we grouped them at 17 years to 21 years of age, 22 to 26 years of age, and above 27 years of age. So those responding who are 17 to 21 years of age were 196 in total, making 37.5% of the respondents. Those who are between 22 to 26 were 160, making 30.6% of the respondents. And above 27 years of age, group were 167, making 31.9% of the respondents. So when you look at these, at least you see that we kind of had a representative of all age groups in the country. So of course, this is the just the graph on the age groups. You can see the first age group was higher because it was in the most of them were students generally. Then of course age group number 2, the same, most of them are students. Then age group number 3, those who are already working. So the gender of respondents, the female gender were a total of 258, representing 49.3% of the respondents in the survey. The male gender were 265, or making 50.7% of the respondents in the survey. So when you look at that, we had a very balanced gender of respondents. So of course, when you look at these pie charts, you see it's almost 50-50. So I invited several institutions, and the respondents are from different institutions of learning and also hostels. So we had the AAR hostel, AMREF, students from the AMREF College, Avenue Hostel, Baraton University, Great Lakes University. There's Jaramogi University, Jomo Kenyatta University, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hostel. There are also students from Kenya Medical Training Institute, Training College. There's also students from Kisii University. Of course, from at least you can see we had a representative of almost all the institutions in Western Kenya, and also AMREF. They were from the city, from Nairobi city. They were having attachments around in these hostels. So the counties of residence, Kenya, we have 47 counties. And as you look at this, we had respondents in general from 23 counties. So 23 out of 47, that's almost 50% of the all counties in the country. but most respondents were residing in Kisumu, and not just because they are born in Kisumu, but because they are students from different places, and the survey was being done in Kisumu. So one of our questions was, to the respondents was, do you have health insurance? So those who responded that they had National Health Insurance Fund were very many. Of course, that's the insurance, the health insurance that is being offered by the government of Kenya. We have, of course, a students branch for the students who can afford to pay. Of course, there are those who didn't have any insurance too. So it was around 60 to 40, the ratio of 60 to 40%. So then we go to now the topic of the day, the general knowledge of phytomedicine. So the respondents who had some general knowledge of phytomedicine were 309 in total, making up 59.1%. And those who had no knowledge at all of phytomedicine were 214, making a percentage of 40.9%. So as you can see, most of the respondents had some knowledge about phytomedicine. That's almost 60%. As you look at it, you can see a representative pie chart of that. That's 59% compared to the 40, or 59 to 41%. So we also asked the sources of the phytomedicine knowledge that the respondents talked about, that they had the knowledge. Where did they get that knowledge from? So most respondents said they got the knowledge from community elders, around 160 respondents. Then this was followed by traditional healers. Then, of course, they were followed by the internet, so social media, and then from relatives, and then from some healthcare providers. So most the knowledge, preponderance of the knowledge is being gotten from community elders and traditional healers. So the overall usage of phytomedicine, a number of respondents reported that themselves or people that they knew, that is both their relatives and friends, had used some kind of phytomedicine before. That is 269 in number, making 51.4% of the respondents. Some respondents reported not having used any type of phytomedicine, not knowing anyone who had used either. So these were 176 in number, making 33.7% of the respondents. While other respondents, that's 78, reported that they did not know if they'd ever used, maybe when they were children, they were given or something, they can't remember or recall, and they didn't know anyone who had ever used any kind of medicine. And this made 14.9%. So this is the bar graph representation of that. As you can see, those who have those who've used, at least they're more than those who've never used, and those who didn't know at all that they used that. Same to this pie charts. So the types of phytomedicine used. So we had questions, and this was open, and so people just write the kind of traditional medicine or phytomedicine or the herbs that they've used. So a big number talks about aloe vera and marubaini. Marubaini is a kind of a herb that marubaini is from Kiswahili word that says that the herb treats more than 40 diseases or ailments. So aloe vera and marubaini was the highest, around 60%, followed by herbal medicine. So some will say herbal and herbal medicine is the same thing. And marubaini and, of course, marubaini itself and aloe vera, of course, those are all herbs. So they were around, so adding up, of course, there's also medical cannabis. Adding all the herbal medicine, marubaini, aloe vera, we put them all under herbs, would be around 82%, then followed by medical cannabis that was coming at around 10%. So we had a question to if they will support more research and government's recognition of traditional herbal medicines for treating cancer or other ailments. That is just general support for phytomedicine research and for treatment of ailments and cancer. So 88.5% said yes, followed by 8.9%, that's around 9% said no, and 2.4% or 2.5, 2.48 or 2.5 said they did not know. So another question was, do you support integrating phytomedicine into formal cancer care pathways? A big number said yes. That is around 73%. Then around 17% said no, and then the others were in between. They were not sure. So that is all that we had from the phytomedicine part of the survey. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much for that survey. Marubaini has been mentioned so many times, which means treating 40 diseases. It's actually neem tree. It comes from neem tree, very renowned in India too. Its scientific name is Azan recta indica. So yeah, thank you, Arthur, for that informative session. Now we want to welcome Dr. Flory. As we know, this is the last lecture of this series, but we need to know the way forward. So Dr. Flory, who is a researcher in phytomedicine and precision medicine from Northeastern University, is gonna give us also what the studies that has been taken on phytomedicine and also just brief us on the way forward. Dr. Flory,
Thank you very much, Dr. Tendwa, for the introductions. And thank you even also to the participants for also attending to this class. Today, I've decided to focus my talks on cancer. As we know, GHC mostly focus on cancer. And since we are talking about citizen medicines, I felt like it would be an opportunity, since we've been talking cannabis all this throughout the course, to kind of look at perspective on what's coming next. So I will be discussing on the therapeutic perspective in the treatment of breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, which is based on plant extract. And this study that I've started came from the observations, a discussion with my uncle that was working for an oil company in Gabon, and they were doing some studies on biodiversity. So he gave me a book which kind of had summarized the biodiversity of Gabons, of the plants and the animals, and he was having discussion with me. And as I say, my background is biotechnology, so I usually have precision medicine, but I think like synergy of many therapeutic treatments is very important. So I will first start with saying that in 2024, the US, it was reported that the US will experience the historical reversal, which is a phenomenon whereby the elderly population is increasing compared to the younger populations. And this shift in aging populations, for example, is usually one of the cause of overwhelming healthcare systems, because the more elderly persons and the more complications such as communicable disease can ensue, such as cancer, organ failure. Also, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, it was estimated that about 976 million of individuals were diagnosed with cancer in 2022, out of which about 9 million of them dead. And projected increase from 348 deaths in 2023 to about 1 billion if nothing is done by 2013, right? So based on that type of data, the Cancer Moonshot Project, which was launched by President Obama in 2016, was developed with the aim to make a decade forward of progress in cancer prevention and diagnosis, whose one of the pillars and a major aim of this Cancer Moonshot project was to reduce cancer death rate by at least 50% in the next 25 years. Wait a minute. So as we know, the most common worldwide cancers are the women cancers, such as the breast cancer, as you can see, which is having the pink color, followed by the prostate, and also the lung cancers. And one of interest is not only that the woman breast cancer is the most has the highest incidence, but it's also associated with the highest mortality. And we can clearly see that most developing countries, how they mostly affected by this specific disease. One of the important things is when we talk about breast cancer, and that's also why I was very interested in precision medicine, because in most sub-Saharan countries, people, when they are developing countries, most people, when they get diagnosed, they get told like they have a cancer, they get told which stage the cancer have. But within the cancer, there are many subtypes, right? People can have hormone positive breast cancer. People can have what they call triple negative breast cancer. And triple negative breast cancer, why triple negative? Because this cancer is negative for many receptors, including the hormone receptor, which has the estrogens, the positive, the progesterone, and human epidermal growth factor. Why is it important? Is because it mostly affects younger women, which kind of impact growth in demographics in countries with a very low population, such as in Gabon, where we just have like 2 million people, right? And usually also patients having this cancer can carry what they call a BRCA1 mutations, which is a double-edged sword, because patients who have this mutation can either have increased chance of developing breast cancer or developing ovarian cancer once they reach menopause. So usually when patient gets diagnosed with cancer, depending on whether the cancer is malignant or it has metastasized, different therapy treatments will be proposed. The first one, when cancer is malignant, meaning it hasn't left the tissue yet, surgery such as mastectomy can be used, or radiotherapy can be used to kind of treat the cancer on the breast. But once it leaves the breast and go into other sites to form distant tumors, distant secondary tumors, a lot of systemic therapy can be used. And I'm just not going to detail of it, but there is like chemotherapy, hormone therapy, and immunotherapy. But all of this therapy, despite the response that they have, there is more than like only 30% of the patients respond to this therapy. And usually this therapy are also causing relapse in a very rapidly after treatment. So there is a need for alternative therapeutic options in this case. And phytomedicine is one of them. Why? Because due to the limited treatment options in comparison to other therapies, patients usually have a poor prognosis, and there is a necessity to develop additional therapy, because not only patients are treated, they develop resistance. And when they develop resistance, they are not left with many options. So phytotherapy is a viable option, as we have seen through this course, through Professor Low's presentations and Dr. Ngeto Young works with Dr. Saïda Yasmin. It's using plant extracts, cannabinoid derivative to treat cancer when combination with chemotherapy. So what we're trying to essentially develop through collaboration with Gabon is also taking advantage of these huge biodiversities and use this plant extract to kind of offer people who cannot afford precision medicine, which is quite costly for people living in this type of area. One of the important things is to know that about 30% of the European Medical Agency and FDA-approved drugs are plant-derived. And here I'm just giving examples of paclitaxels, docetaxel, and vinblastins, which are chemotherapeutic drugs or small molecules that are used to cure cancer that are analog derived from plants. And why is it important for phytomedicine? Because this single compound-based therapy have been unable to provide like effective cure for cancer, given the complex etiology. Because one of the things that I'm a strong, I won't say a strong believer, but Cancer is a multifactorial disease. It can be caused by environmental reasons, genetic predispositions, and I don't believe that there is one molecule can just, try to manage a disease that is multifactorial. On the other side, phytochemical extracts, because they're made up of natural compound concoctions, which act in synergy. And what I mean by natural compound concoctions, because if you look at a plant infusion or plant extract, you not only have a substance that will have anti-tumoral, some of them will have anti-angiogenic capacity, some of them will have antioxidant properties. And I was very interested because when you have this type of mixture of compounds having different property, they should produce a much more synergy and therefore a better therapeutic response as opposed to the single molecule that are usually isolated for this plant extract. So this is just a study that I made of the many plants that we use in collaboration with University of Science and Technique of Masuku and IFAMETRA. So this Gabonese plant extract, we kind of investigated on mice. What I just wanted to show is to mention what I mentioned earlier around the anti-angiogenic properties. And what you can see on the top here, you have a sorafenib, which is an approved drug that has shown anti-angiogenic properties. And when we compare them to the different plant extract that you can see, such as Ficus vogeliana, Timela africana, and plant B and C, you can see that we could compare and show that these plants had also anti-angiogenic activities. On the right also, we try to kind of measure, because it's the chicken egg method that just show like how efficient the drug have the capacity to kind of reduce these blood vessel formations, which are usually used by cancer cells to kind of get access to food and support tumor formations. Also, we use a chemically induced model due to the low resource settings. We use a chemically induced model of skin cancer, as you can see. And what we have seen is when we provide through gavage, the rats with this type of plant extract, we had the capacity to kind of, when we provide the animals through gavage with this type of plant extract, we were able to kind of reduce the nodule formations. Okay, give me 1 minute. So once you had this plant extract, I told my collaborators if I could have the plant extract to kind of repeat the in vitro assay here in the US. And I was showing that they have anti-proliferative activities. As you can see on the left, there is a dose-dependent reduction in cell viability on human cancer cell lines. And I also could demonstrate like we could see a reduction in tumor fibration that is using a murine model of triple-negative breast cancer. So I'm furthering progressing with these studies because I want to investigate whether it has immune-inducing effect, because immune-inducing effect is one of the most wanted effects that usually results in long-lasting response in cancer therapy. So this is another study that is also presented by a group in Colombia that has shown also that using plant extract are very effective and can also be combined with current conventional therapy such as immunotherapy. And what they've shown, they use the specific fractions of the Scaecia spinosa plants, and they've shown that when combining it with targeted immunotherapy, they could have a superior effect compared to monotherapy on its own. And that's usually what you see here. So they had a treatment, and after that, they let the tumor grow to a specific size, and then they start administrating the mice either with the immunotherapy alone, the phytomedicine, or the combination therapy. And as you can see here, when they give a combination therapy of the plant extract with immunotherapy, there is a higher therapeutic response compared to the monotherapies on their own, which kind of supports the idea of the need of synergizing this phytotherapy with other conventional. Here you can see when they combine it also with immunotherapy, even given as a monotherapy, we could see that this plant-derived extracts were capable of activating the immune system and that activation of of the immune system eventually resulted in enhanced anti-tumor immunity and better therapeutic response. And this study was not only performed on animals. Right now, it's received the clinical approval. I mean, when I say clinical approval, it just received the phase. It's currently being undergoing toxicity studies on the phase 1 clinical trial, where they're trying to assess what's the best dose that has efficacy on triple-negative breast cancer patients. And now it's in the phase 2, where they will kind of confirm the proof of concept that they observe on animals. This is to show you that there are many plant extracts that are being used, and Professor Wilfred talked about the blood plants, and there are many other plants that are showing now therapeutic efficacy, even superior efficacy compared to classic conventional therapeutic chemotherapeutic agents. So I will stop here, and I would like to thank you again for having listened to my presentation, and I will make myself available to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Flory. Now I'll invite all the panelists, if you could just make yourself available. And if you have any question, please post the questions. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Dr. Flory, for that presentation. It was quite informative. And we need more of those. Together with citizen science, we need to get more of such plans. We need to investigate them and see their mode of action, their effect. That is what we are talking about. Welcome, welcome, Dr. Burrell. Okay, so for the first question, goes to you, I think, Prof. Will. How do citizen scientists get rewarded for their knowledge?
Yeah, I think that's a million-dollar question, partly because, it's exactly one of the things I addressed at the end. It's not just the contribution, it's also the fact that this could be indigenous knowledge from some location that you take, and then how can you not reward that community? So that's a question that I've had a lot, right? Even with the example of the blood plan they talked about, like write down, Harvard has patents on this, like basically for some of the extraction processes, you can really patent the plan. I think those are some questions that, Dr. Sandra addressed a couple of weeks ago. There are some exceptions. You could do some things, but if you didn't do that, you get that knowledge, which is really coming from some population, including if it's in citizen science. How can you not reward those people who contributed to that? And so I think that's a conversation that's ongoing. In my particular case, we've had the discussions about if this moves forward, it becomes a really commercial product that's generating money, that a foundation can be set up that can contribute to that community's education and healthcare, invest into that, from any of the profits that come through that. I think, if we can do citizen science, you can definitely track some of the contributors to that knowledge. They should be rewarded. If the discovery comes out to be a benefit that generates money, I think they really need to be rewarded for that. So, but that's something that may be dependent on a case by case. I think you're muted, Dr. Billy.
Yeah. What about like them? Is there a way they get recognized, like maybe if the paper is being produced, a scientific paper, is there a way where they get acknowledged?
Yeah, in the case of the paper that we published, we definitely acknowledged the community, absolutely, and some of the co-authors were from there. We did some of the work, so absolutely, you have to acknowledge the community. I think even at the very least, that's ethical. Even if you're not required to do it, like you need to do that, like just ethically. I think that's a consideration you have to have.
Oh, thank you. Another question for you. Welcome, Prof. Katerere. Another question for you, Prof. Will. What part of the plant in Justicia is used?
Yeah, in this particular case, the leaves were used. First of all, the big surprise was that if you look at the leaves, they're very green, right? They're so green. It's not like plants that you see the red and you think, okay, yeah, this must have a red pigmentation, so you can extract something from it. They're totally green. But once you put that in water, it just starts to bleed. Like it bleeds like it's blood, right? And that it was a fascinating thing. So that's where the richest concentration of these extracts. And more recently, we've actually seen that those extracts include anthocyanins, which are really these pigments that give fruits their red colors and have just these additional benefits in modulating the microbiome and other things like that are new emerging applications. But yeah, so it was the leaves. But when we started looking back at research in other Justicia plants, we see that people can use the stems. People have used, in the case of soybean, they actually extract hemoglobin from the roots. So, sorry. So it's possible that, we didn't look at those areas, but it's possible that, there may be some concentrations in those. But primarily the answer here was the leaves.
Great. I want to ask a question. From the studies that was done at Uzima University, I see like 51% of the population of the participants say they used phytomedicine. And the other 49, I would say, % don't have a knowledge of phytomedicine. And this will go to anybody who can answer. Do you think the audience really understood what phytomedicine is? I've come to realize, especially with the younger generation, when you ask about phytomedicine, when you ask about herbal medicine, they'll shy away from it, first of it. And secondly, they will claim not to have used it. When you look at the population, most of people use neem, if not even for the soap, facial, some even take it as supplements. But they don't realize that them taking neem is phytomedicine. You spoke about muarubaine. And most of the population, I think, in Kenya and East Africa, use muarubaine, especially those who have eczema, use it for their eczema. But when you come to ask about them having the knowledge of phytomedicine, then they will say they have never used maybe when they were kids. But when you go to specific, if you ask them, have you ever taken a ginseng supplement? Then they will say yes. And not them knowing that ginseng is supplement. So my question is, do you think the general population have a great knowledge, especially the young? When I say young, maybe the youth, from the age of maybe 12 to the age of 30, do you think they have the knowledge of what phytomedicine is? And it can go to anybody from your own observations.
Yeah, so let me just take this first. So in our survey, we wrote phytomedicine, but we gave a definition in brackets what phytomedicine is, but we didn't give those examples. So like specific examples like this name, Amarubaini, no, we didn't give those ones. So those came from the respondents, the Marubaini, those came from the respondents themselves.
Okay.
So I was just going to say that, I mean, this is why we need to, and since we started this course, I have become more and more radical in the sense that that's why we need to decolonize the mind, right? Because really, I'm also very conflicted by the use of phytomedicine instead of traditional medicine, because that's what it is. And as Africans, I think we are so colonized to a sense that we are happy using ginseng because it's Chinese, right? But if you have to use a herb, aloe ferox, for instance, which the rich and famous will use as a laxative, and they call it detoxing. If we use that, then hey, it's not considered kosher. Um, so there's also that element of denialism. And what I have picked up, and I was in Kenya once, and I was in a class of medical students, and I asked them, how many of you have used traditional medicine? And all of them denied it. And then I said, well, but do you use, aloe vera? And then suddenly hands were coming up. And then I said to them, do you realize that being in this class is really because your ancestors were healers? And so there's this calling in the healing professions that somewhere, if you look back, there is a healing and a caring profession that you have been called to. So I think part of this global catalyst, I think what it has done and what it should do is to continue to say it's acceptable to use traditional medicine, even for those that are Christians, because I mean, we know that a lot of these herbs are also quoted in the scripture, right? Yeah.
Great. Anybody to add on that?
Yeah, perhaps I could. I think that's why it's very important for us to embark on this whole educational program to educate people about phytomedicines and what it's all about. And I think that's the most important thing, because we all know that people will go before they go to church at night. They go like behind the hut and get some herbs there. And it's the stigma around it. So people don't want to be associated with it. That's why it's important for us to now research these herbs and come up with like a database so that people will start to accept that it is normal, it's okay. You don't have to go at night to consult to get these herbs, because then at least we have dosaging, standardization, and all that and the like. And that's why this platform is very important for that, and especially the education. We did launch a program to say, let's go embark on educating the lawmakers, the public, the decision makers, and everybody about the use of phytomedicines. Because like I said, I think in my session that you'll find even medicinal cannabis, there's still a huge stigma around it. On the continent, we barely have even 10 countries that have legalized. And when you speak to people from certain parts of the African continent, they like, no, you can't use that. That's taboo. It's not good. You can't talk about cannabis. You can't talk. That's why it's been so slow getting other countries to give licenses to allow for it to be used. So I think what's very, very important is to embark on the education part of it, that it is fine to use phytomedicines, and they're most probably better than the conventional medicines that we've got, with lesser side effects, and as long as we've researched them. I think that's what I've got to add for now.
Oh, thank you. We also have the drug interaction, like as medical profession in all areas, especially if you're dealing with your clinicians. You should know about the knowledge of drug interaction with people who are taking phytomedicine, especially those people who are terminally ill. They tend to go back to phytomedicine, and when they go and see their practitioners, they don't really disclose the knowledge of what they are taking, not them knowing that there could be drug interaction that could either potentiate or reduce the functioning of the other medication, both ways. So that's why also we should educate the public. The public should come to know, not only the public, even the practitioners, about phytomedicine, about their mechanism of action, because as we said, 80% of the population use phytomedicine. One of the participants is saying phytomedicine also include edibles and plants and vegetables eaten for nutrition supplements. So he he sincerely thinks that, like, especially for those who answered the question, they may not have had a clear understanding of what phytomedicine is. But as we say, we can only give what the survey said. We can't, but what we can do from here is just try and deduce what that means. And from that, we are picking up they may not have a good knowledge of what phytomedicine is, and there's a knowledge gap between most people of the understanding of phytomedicine. And that's why the Global Health Catalyst is here to catalyze health for all, to spread education so that you can know what's happening on the platform. And also, I will also want just to give a chance to the Global Health Catalyst to try and explain to people way forward in terms of what do you want to see happening from here going forth in terms of the series of the education that we are giving. What should people expect from us for the other series coming next? And when will they expect this series to start? Prof. Will?
Yeah, we are all part of it. So when you say that, it's like, okay, who are you talking to? All right, I can take a first stab at that. I mean, first of all, thanks to everybody who has participated so far. I think, the first step of this really is I want to highlight, I just mentioned that in my talk that, we will have a phytomedicine session at the Harvard Summit coming up in September. So this will be a great opportunity for those who are here to also join. I know most of us on this panel will be. Those who cannot join, there'll be an online bi-directional link that you can join and participate if you're not there in person. But really, that's going to be one of the steps where, coming out of the last lectures, we talked about collaborations, where we really want to, and I mentioned in my talk that in 2019, we had already established these institute, to really move this forward in education. Dr. Berlin mentioned that really powerful component of it. You really have to educate people, including the young people and the youth, doctors. Dr. Sandra is doing a great job with that, and then research with all what we are doing, Dr. Kireri and other people. I think that platform would allow us on September 21st, particularly, to relaunch that initiative at, let me say, 2.0. That much higher level. And then I think there are really 4 core areas. One is the education we just talked about. So we should be able to announce, the next series and really broadly, there are going to be a number of universities coming before that session. They're going to be signing MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings, including Ozima University with Dr. Arthur. A number of other countries are coming as well. So that then allows the platform to engage these universities for also education, the education piece of that. The other part is really looking at the doctors, as you may have heard from the lecture of Dr. Sandra also, the US passed, some regulation that allows now for doctors, to be more educated, to get more involved with medical cannabis, for example. But there's going to be also education, like Dr. Berlin was saying. With education, we have to educate the doctors as well. So I think that for me is one of the big, and I will let other people chime in, it's one of the big areas where we want to invest into that education. I would say, definitely moving really quickly. We'll talk about this after that, and then I'll make the announcement during the summit when that next series will come. But want to invite everybody to it. We'll send the Zoom links if you're not able to be there in person, or the course participants who have registered. And I think we have over 300 people registered, who can join. So.
Do you have a message to anybody who's sitting here? There are so many professions who have joined in and they really feel like they want to be part of global health and they want to contribute to this. Do you have a word for them?
Citizen science, that's the word. So the platform where we launch really is going to provide that opportunity to, for people to engage. There's already, who was supposed to join? at one of the summits 2 years ago, Dr. Berlin was there. We had a young, you talked about young people. So they developed this app for citizen science, essentially, where you could just upload your picture and it can already tell you, this is what this plant is being used for. Here are the doses that people use, or some knowledge about it. Here's the species, give you some background information about it. And the more people use that, the more you can refine, you can get more data to train the AI, it becomes more accurate and things like that. So we definitely mentioned the Wakanda platform. That's going to be part of the International Phytomedicine platform that we're going to be doing. So every citizen can participate. I know.
Great, great. I just want to read one of the comments given by one of our participants. Much gratitude to all profs who have taken it upon themselves to dispense this valuable knowledge with us in every step. We appreciate you greatly, ladies and gentlemen. But I want to give a special acknowledgement to Dr. Brelin for standing with us as a testimony that medical cannabis is a reality and possible. Many a times we say seeing is believing, and her presence here brings the assurance that indeed there's light in phytomedicine all the way from the farm to bedside. Gratitude, Dr. Brelin. That's such kind words, such warm words coming. So many people have been enlightened with this session. We have had so many testimonies. So many people wanted to participate in this session, but they came to know about it a bit too late. Dr. Flory, what word do you have for people who really want to participate, or really what should they do if they want to obtain a certificate? How will they get the information?
Okay, no, thank you very much again, Dr. Tendwa. So in order for them to get a certificate, we have attendance, and also they will have to complete a survey. So an email was sent to all the participants with a survey. Please complete the survey, and together with the attendance, that's what they will have to provide, right? And I also would like to just say that citizen sciences is really the way forward, because even me, some weeks before, I was telling Prof. Will, what is citizen science? I didn't even know what it was. And interestingly, I went and watched a video of these political leaders in my country, Paul Mbabesol, who ran for presidential election in 1998. And as part of his program, he had a program on citizen sciences to say that he wanted doctors to work with traditionalists, right? He wanted doctors to work with traditionalists for every person in every specific region of Gabon to provide which plant they use and what specific disease this plant is used for. And the vision was to say, if that part of the country has this plant and that treats, let's say, heart diseases, to have a heart center that is focused on treatment of heart in this area. And this is very interesting because once we have the citizen sciences, we can identify a place in the world where these plants are growing, and we can therefore know where to go to get what we want. And as we mentioned last week as well, that different seasons, these plants give different results at different seasons, and that can sharing this type of knowledge can just increase the knowledge and help clinicians and researchers to kind of better tailor this type of therapeutic treatments to kind of address clinical relevant needs. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you so much, Dr. Flores. Citizen science, way to go, way to go. I just want to give the panelists some time to talk about their experiences on citizen science in one way or another. Even before you knew it, you have seen people talk about plants. You've walked in communities. We work with these people. We work in communities. We grew up in communities. Just give a brief explanation of what you think was citizen science. Back then, you never knew it was citizen science, but now it has become so profound. And this will be an encouragement for you to go and engage people to help them participate in this upcoming program. I'll start with you, Prof. Katerere.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I guess it's an interesting story. There's a plant called Combritum herreraense, right? And growing up, we used to take the leaves, put a bit of salt and chew that for sore throats, right? Years later, I realized actually that it's part of the first anti-angiogenic compound. Dr. Fleury talked a bit about that, so it's very interesting. So it's that's where Combrita name came from. The first anti-angiogenic compound actually discovered or reported by the NIH. And then I went back to my grandmother's village and collected many of the different species. And that's really what I worked on for my PhD. And I'm eternally grateful for those citizens because, that really not only did it help my own health at that stage, but has shaped my career over the past 25 years. So thank you.
Sure, thank you. We all have a story about citizen science. Dr. Brillin?
What can I say? Thank you so much to all the participants and also for that, for those warming comments from, I think it's a Collins. And I think the next topic or the next sessions is now, we've got a topic already now, citizen science. I think I'm not so sure if I jumped the gun here, Dr. Will, but I think we should look at launching citizen science on the 21st of September when we meet at Harvard next month. And I think all the participants and much, much more go and spread the word. Let's embark on this wonderful journey together as citizens and let's explore more and educate each other and let's take along together and that it is okay to use phytomedicines, but safely. And therefore, you've got all these academia, scientists, clinicians who are ready and willing to help. So perhaps we should actually start looking at different countries and speak to the governments of the day to see if we can have a database of their herbalists in the countries and then bring them together. And then that's the only way we can all collaborate and start a movement together. So perhaps on the continent, we can spearhead that. And then others in the US, you spear on your part. And then we all bring all this wonderful knowledge together. But what's important to safeguard the IP for the people who have found these herbs and so forth, so that at least we can have it safeguarded. Because I think that's most probably also why they're worried. They don't know that if they come forward, who's going to protect them? Because the next thing, it all ends up getting hijacked and they end up losing out. So I think it's very important to spread the word. And there's no better way of carrying messages across the globe than the word of mouth. So let's keep going. Like Dr. Will keeps saying, Wakanda to your rescue forever. Let's keep going. Thank you so much. Thank you. Looking forward to the next series and looking forward to welcoming a lot of you to Harvard, whether virtually or in person. I'm looking forward to that as we collaborate in a win-win situation and let's educate each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brillin. Dr. Arthur, please give us some parting words.
Yeah, so I wanted to add something about how to make phytomedicine more engaging in Africa. So I'm just wondering how Professor Katerere is a pharmacist and is so enthusiastic about phytomedicine. In Kenya, I've really tried, even when I was a medical student, to involve pharmacists in doing clinical trials on phytomedicine. And they really resisted. They told me, all right, whatever you're going to do, we want you to bring us evidence-based science. Yeah, go and do the clinical trial and come and show us that this really works. So I did a validation clinical trial for Dr. Ware's event flow for sickle cell disease. And I really wanted to involve them. I was telling them, as pharmacists, you're the guys who should lead this because we have so many of these phytomedicine staff back in the villages. For us who are born away from the villages, every time we would go for citizen science in the villages during Christmas, and you will get allergies, you will get, these stomach upsets. We will be taken to, these old mothers around, and everyone knew something like, oh no, last time so and so child had this. We take him to so and so. There's something in the farm there that can help him or her, and we really, we you'll really be shocked that these people whom you think they didn't have any formal education, but whatever they were prescribing to us, we got well immediately. Yeah, so I don't know why pharmacists are not so keen on this. I don't know why. You can tell us, Prof. Kasirere, but then clinical trials on these, then we give them the evidence-based plus the mode of action so that we show them that these things are really working. So Prof. Katerere should tell us why pharmacists and not even medical doctors, pharmacists, they're the ones who should be at the forefront, why they are resisting this.
Okay. Welcome, Dr. Sandra. We've been waiting for you.
Thank you so
The floor
much.
is yours. Yes.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here today with all you in this wonderful closing day. It's been like an amazing journey to be part of this great educational program. I want to congratulate all of you that finished today, the last day. This is very important knowledge that you will gather and you will grow after this, and just to look forward to keep creating more education, because definitely, as you know, information is power. I want to say thank you to Dr. Will, to Dr. Billy, to Dr. Fleury for leading this amazing initiative and for making me part of this, because definitely the use of cannabinoid therapies and the education based in scientific evidence is the key to destigmatize the use of cannabis in medicine. As doctors, as physicians, we have the responsibility to treat our patients based on scientific evidence. So this work of this education with these amazing professors, speakers is very valuable. And we hope we're touching every corner in Earth. Right now we're going to be translated in 4 languages, but I'm sure we will have it in more languages, because this is the type of knowledge that will give quality of life to the patients, that is improving the lives, not just of the patients, the lives of the families. And this is the groundbreaking research. And I want to highlight the great work that Dr. Will has been doing all these years, and also say thank you to Berlin, that is also leading the way all over the world, that we've been working together. And this International Phytomedicines Institute, that I feel so honored and proud to be part among with all of you. So I think you have to keep studying, you have to keep pursuing the knowledge. And I want also to encourage you to keep doing research, and also for the ones that did the complete certification, revisit and see the classes again, because every time you see the class again, you will take a different approach. You will learn, you have bibliographic references there that you can amplify the knowledge that you gather. So definitely it's been amazing, and I hope we keep going for more, and looking forward to see you at the Global Health Catalyst Summit next month.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra. We couldn't have ended this program without hearing your voice. Thank you so much. And now I'll give a chance to Prof. Will to say a few words before we wind up.
Yeah,
Prof.
I just want to say ditto. I mean, all the things that Dr. Berlin has said, Dr. Sandra has said, Dr. Katerere and Dr. Arthur and Dr. Flory, and to end by really applauding you Dr. Billy, for coordinating this course in a wonderful way. You know, you've been amazing, and I think we couldn't have been blessed with some other person than you. So, you know, just thank you and thank God for you and for every participant who has joined. You know, we're really looking forward to you joining us at the Harvard event, but also for the next phase of this, doing this together.
Do not forget to revisit our classes, fill that survey, and yeah, you'll be eligible for certification. Wakanda forever. Bye. Till next time. See you at Harvard.